So you're looking to make the move to Alabama and you're thinking about moving to Auburn, but you're trying to figure out exactly how expensive it is. Now, Auburn is definitely not the cheapest area or city to live in Alabama. So stay tuned. We're going to get after that and let you know everything you need to know about the cost of living in Auburn, Alabama. Auburn, Alabama area. I want you to make sure to go. Hey everyone, Alex Acuff here with eXp Realty, broker of the Acuff Weekley Group here in Auburn, Alabama. If you're looking for everything, eating, sleeping, playing, cost of living in Auburn or Opelika, you have found the right channel. So go ahead and make sure you actually hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification. That way you don't miss another video. And also go ahead and smash that heart button or that thumbs up so we can make sure we're getting some love from you out there, because the content we're going to give you guys today is really going to help you make that decision on moving to the Auburn area. And so speaking of moving to the area, if you are looking to move to the Auburn Opelika area and you were looking for a great agent, I would love to apply to be the agent, and I'd love for us to be the boots on the ground because people are reaching out to us every single day, just like you. So go ahead and reach out to us. Let us know exactly what you're looking for. We have a little bit of a process of how we do this with clients out of town. So we'd like to set up a Zoom conversation or a group conversation over the phone, and feel free to reach out to us days, nights, weekends. We've got your back when moving to the Auburn Opelika area. In today's video, we're going to be covering all of the cost of living in the Auburn area, but stay tuned to the end because I am going to get into the housing prices and the cost of living and a little bit of detail as far as like why is Auburn pretty expensive. So whenever you're looking at the expenses of Auburn versus the rest of the state, you're going to see, man, Auburn's actually pretty darn expensive to live there, especially when you're looking at the home prices, but we'll get into that at the end. The first thing we're going to get into about the cost of living in Auburn, Alabama is definitely the utilities. And I think it's really important for you to kind of understand the lay of the land when you're looking at utilities when you're moving to the area. And so if you're coming from a place like Texas, most of the time you're dealing with multiple power companies. And in our area, you're only going to be dealing with two. And that's primarily going to be Alabama Power, or it's going to be Tallapoosa River Electric Co-op, TREC is what we like to call it. And so the power bill that you're going to experience here, when I look it up online, it's going to say roughly about $150, $145. And that's pretty standard for your starter home. It's going to be a 3-bed, 2-bath. You know, if you have a little bit bigger home that may be a little bit older, maybe it doesn't have all spray foam insulation, you can fully expect a home that's over 2,800 square feet. You could run a bill over $250, upwards of $300. And I've seen some really big houses have power bills over $400. So it's something to be aware of. But the power is relatively, it's pretty cheap, I guess, for the area, or really more par for the course, especially when you're looking at Opelika versus Auburn, or even Columbus, Georgia, or even Birmingham. So you're going to get about the same range on the electricity, but just to be aware, about a 3.2 is about $150. In Auburn, we have water, your sewer, and your trash is all in the same bill. So your water bill is going to be roughly about $40, and then you've got about another 10, 15 baked in there. That's going to be your sewer as well as your garbage pickup. So in the city of Auburn, we do have cans that they deliver to the house once you set up your water, and they'll deliver a can to your house, or it'll already be there whenever you purchase the home. And they do curbside pickup for regular trash as well as recycling, which is really nice. They don't pick up glass, so you got to make sure you take that down to the recycling plant off of Donahue Drive. So it's kind of just north of the university. So that bill is going to roughly range anywhere from really $40, $55. And, you know, if you have a pool, of course, your water bill can get significantly higher, especially if you're having to fill it up all the time. Kind of a funny story is I was flipping a house one time that had a pool, and I had to fill the pool up a couple times, or actually just get the level. I had to fill it one time, and then I had to keep filling it because there was a leak somewhere in the pump, and I had to fix it, and it took a little bit of time. Anyways, I ran my water bill over $200. I think it was $200 or $300. The city definitely came out and said something to me. I think they threatened to cut it off, but I kind of told them my situation, and they completely understood. So just be aware about your water bill, and that's going to cover really your utilities as far as what the house is. Natural gas, you know, you're going to range just depending on your usage. So in the wintertime, you're going to have, if you have natural gas, which we do all through the city of Auburn, you're going to be a little bit higher on your natural gas. You could be like really anywhere from $70 to $110 typically. In the wintertime, if you're running natural gas for your heating and your water heater, and then also during the summertime, it's not as hot because you're not using so much natural gas. So that bill will really be around probably anywhere from $20 to $40, just depending on your usage. So that's going to really kind of cover your bills for utilities for the house when you're looking at moving to the Auburn area. The next item that I want to cover is your internet bill. And so kind of explaining the lay of the land, I moved to Auburn from Atlanta. I'm originally from this area, but I moved from Atlanta where, they had 1 gig internet, and that was like 2014. So they had lightning fast internet at that time. I moved to Auburn. They didn't really have much going on. Opelika had some fiber running through it, and the 1 gig internet was really, really expensive. And so in today's standard, you can get 1 gig in a lot of places around Auburn, especially now they've ran fiber in a lot of places. So you can expect to pay, upwards of $100, $110 for 1 gig download speed internet. But pretty normal is going to be 300 or 500 megabyte download speed. And you're going to get that anywhere from $55 to really $85. And as far as internet providers, you're going to have a couple different options. So if you're within the city, you're typically going to see Spectrum. You're going to see WOW. You're going to see AT&T Fiber if you're in a neighborhood where there's good fiber that's ran. And then if you're outside of the city limits or on a little bit bigger parcel of land, sometimes you have to go to satellite, and that would be HughesNet. I highly suggest staying away from it. It's super slow and super expensive. So definitely not. That is something to look into when you're looking at homes. Always ask about the internet and what are the providers if I decide to buy this house, kind of doing your due diligence on your utilities while you're looking to buy a house. The next thing I want to cover is gas. And so gas in the Auburn area is actually really, really cheap compared to the national average. You're going to be somewhere, this is early September of 2022. I'm recording this video. So this is a bit of an update since my last video about the cost of living, which was about a year and a half ago. And so I think back then we were somewhere around $2 and maybe 60 cents. Today we're at about $3.05. The national average floats around $3.80 a gallon. So you're going to get relatively cheap gas. If you're looking around town, you can get gas pretty cheap, like at Sam's Club or Kroger. So you can get gas. I think I just looked at it, was $2.99 at Sam's. And a little bit of a pro tip: if you're moving here and you like grocery shopping, I would highly suggest grocery shopping at your local Kroger. If you want to save on fuel points, save your fuel points. So every $100 you spend at Kroger, you actually get 10 cents towards your savings on each gallon you pump in your car per time you would put gas in your car. So each time you're going to the gas station. So yeah, my pro tip is definitely the Kroger fuel points, and then also just being aware that the gas is going to be relatively cheap here in the area, pretty much all around. I did find one gas station that was actually pretty expensive at about $3.30 a gallon. So maybe stay away from that gas station. Next thing I want to talk about is the beer. So in our last video about the cost of living, we spoke about like the cost of a pint you would get from like a brewery. But, since we're rocking into football season, I figured I'd give the cost for a 24 pack of beer. And so our cost for an average cost for a 24 pack of beer, kind of like your Miller Lite, Bud Light, is going to be right around $20. So when I looked it up online, it said $19.65 for our area. So which was kind of cool. And also looking it up, so if you want to compare that to other states, Illinois was actually the cheapest at about $15 for a 24 pack. So if you want to get massive savings on your beer, you can go to Illinois. And then also the most expensive beer is actually up in Alaska. So it's going to be about $31 for a 24 pack of beer. So super expensive beer in a super cold climate. Not for me, but I will stick to my $20 beer here in the Auburn area. Next up is childcare. Childcare can be one of those things, those costs that you really don't think a whole lot about until you need it. So, for example, we were having kids when we had our first kid a couple years ago. We were thinking that we thought about childcare after our child was born. We were talking to a friend. They were like, "Oh my gosh, you haven't signed up." And I was like, "No." I was like, "Where'd you go?" He's like, "Well, I went to this place and I got there by 5 a.m. and I stood in line and I was waiting, and I wasn't even the first in line." So, childcare is super competitive in Auburn. So if you need childcare, I highly suggest researching it before you A, have a kid, or B, before you move here, and also get yourself on a wait list, especially the younger they are. And if you need all week coverage, I ran the cost you're going to be about $95 for all week, all day, upwards of, I think, about $150 from what I could find online. I didn't really call all the daycares in town, but I did research a couple of them. And so I could see that the costs are ranging for full week, all day childcare. You're going to be anywhere from $95 to $150. I think somewhere around 130 is pretty normal, 120. But definitely do your research, look around, look at some of the reviews. Go on Facebook and you can look up a lot of reviews on childcare here in the Auburn area. Parents love to talk about it. There is a there is a parents magazine. I think it's like Opelika Parents or Auburn Opelika Parents. You can look at that as well and get a lot of good referrals as far as where you could take your kids. Next up, I want to talk about taxes. And if there's one thing we know for certain is death and also taxes. So taxes in the state of Alabama, you're going to be anywhere from 2 to 4% of your income in income tax as far as what you can expect from the state of Alabama. So the average family is going to pay somewhere right around $2,400 per family on the average income in the state of Alabama, compared to our sister state right over in Georgia is going to be anywhere from 1 to 5%. So you can definitely expect 2 to 5% depending on your income bracket, but that's going to be really your income tax. And sales tax is another thing to be aware of, especially when moving to the Auburn area. If you live inside the city, your sales tax is actually going to be higher than the county tax. So the state of Alabama has a sales tax of 4%, okay? And most counties have their own tax, and then also the cities have their own tax on top of that. So if you kind of add those up, you got 4% from the state, 4% for Lee County, and then another 1% for the city of Auburn. Now, some people complain about it, some people don't. I really don't complain because I do feel like if you live inside the city limits, you do get a lot of perks of living in a very clean city. You've got all the amenities. So there's a lot to be said about living inside the city. So don't let that really push you away from moving into the city. Trust me, you're going to pay sales tax regardless. I just don't let 1% really make my decisions for me. So just be aware. If you live in the county, you're going to pay 8%. If you live inside the city, you're going to pay 9%. Next, we're going to talk about rent. And rent is something you're probably wondering about, especially if you're thinking about moving to the area and you haven't really found an area that you really like. So you've decided that, hey, I'm going to rent. And so you need to be aware of a couple things about renting that you should definitely know. The closer to Auburn University you live, the more expensive your rent's going to be. So if you're living in Cary Woods, just north of the university or anywhere really close, you're going to have a really high rent payment, okay? So the average rent payment for living inside the city limits of Auburn is actually $2,150. Now, does that mean that they're all over $2,000? Absolutely not. There are some more affordable options a little bit further away from the university. And when I say further away from the university, if you're coming from a bigger town, let me just explain what I mean geographically, like as far as time. Everyone thinks in time. So like, how long does it take me to get somewhere? So like when I lived in Atlanta, it would take me 45 minutes to get 3 miles to get to Walmart. Whereas if you've got something 3 miles away here in Auburn, you're probably going to get there in less than like 10 minutes. So everything in Auburn is really less than 20 minutes away from itself. So if you want to get to the north side of Auburn, to the south side of Auburn, it's going to take you probably about 20 minutes max to get from top to bottom. So everything, we like to just say, you're at max 15 minutes away from something if you're in the middle of Auburn. So you're not going to, so when I say away from the university, you're going to get less expensive housing, you're just going to add anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So if you can go a little bit further away and get a lower rent payment, I highly suggest it. Now, if you want to go a little bit further away, our sister city, Opelika, they're going to average about $1,500 in rent. So it's something to be said. Opelika is a little bit quieter in my personal opinion, especially during football season. And then also you've got a little bit more of a historic downtown. Now, Auburn's got plenty of history, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Opelika has done a little bit better job of preserving their history and keeping some of their older buildings and kind of redeveloping some of the original beauty of Opelika is still there. So if you go down there and it is a entertainment district, which is pretty cool. So there's lots of fun stuff that goes on in Opelika. And then there's also plenty of good homes, just as good as there is in Auburn. So I would say quality of living wise, they're probably about even in my personal opinion, just from living here for years. So don't be afraid of looking in Opelika if you are coming to this area to rent. Now, before I get into the cost of housing, I really quickly want to touch on something that actually is something you're going to notice as soon as you move here, especially if you're a golfer. So I want to talk a little bit about the cost of golf. And so you guys can kind of get the lay of the land here. So Auburn is comprised, there's 3 private clubs. So you got Sagahatchee, Moores Mill, AU Club, and there's one public course, which is called Indian Pines. Indian Pines is going to range anywhere, if you're walking during the weekdays, call it $20-25. And then on the weekend, if you're playing a full round of golf, you could pay upwards of 18 holes with a cart. I think it's somewhere between $40 to $45 to rent that as far as the public course goes. Now, with a private course, I highly suggest go ahead and reaching out to those clubs personally and getting their cost for their initiation fee, finding out exactly what their monthly membership fee is going to be, and then also find out what their cart fee is going to be if you're going to play golf, and then also find out what all amenities are included with that membership, making sure they have club. And I think all of them have, a gym, a pool, they're going to have a pro shop, of course. It's probably going to be a restaurant inside. So just really ask about those amenities and ask them what they're doing for their members as well. So that's a little bit of a pro tip on the golf membership. So, and some are way more expensive than the others. So make sure you're just doing your due diligence on the golf. Okay, now we're getting into the topic that I wanted to talk to you guys the most about today is the cost of housing in Auburn, Alabama. So the average cost of a home as of July 2022, which is the latest data that we've got, and I'm doing this video in early September of 2022, so a little bit of a lag there in time, but the latest data has said that the average home sale price is going to be $375,000 for a home in Auburn. It's probably going to be about a 4-bedroom house. So you're going to get about a 4-bedroom house for $375,000. Our average cost is significantly higher than the state average, which is about right under $300,000. I think it was like $299,000. So the state of Alabama's average housing is about $300,000. Auburn's going to be significantly more expensive. And you may say, well, why in the world are they that much more expensive? Why am I paying nearly over 20% more for a home inside the city limits of Auburn? Well, like I talked about already, I've kind of led up to a lot of the nice amenities and the things that you get. Now, you do pay for them, but it's all about your quality of life, right? So, the closer to a university, we've got a really good stronghold, our biggest employer is Auburn University. And so we've got a very good anchor, I call it the anchor tenant of the city. And so we have that here. Whereas a lot of cities rely on small businesses or a little bit larger industry that can come in and out of their town. We have one that is from here, that is from Auburn University. So having that big education system, as well as extremely good, something that really leads to that cost is actually our K through 12 education that I haven't really gotten into a whole lot into this. And we haven't talked about the cost of schools or anything in this video, which there's a couple different schools, and we can feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to chat about them. I can give you those resources and who to call. But our education system, as far as K through 12 and higher education in the city limits of Auburn, I really feel is unmatched in the state of Alabama. Now, are we the number 1 K through 12 area? No. In Alabama, we're probably about, I think, number 6. Some of our elementary schools are ranked in the top 3. Our high school is the largest high school in the state of Alabama. It's a 7A school. So what you can expect is really good education, really good amenities, really good city government, really good chamber of commerce, very clean city. I will say overall, the atmosphere is very positive inside the city limits of Auburn. I'm actually from outside of the city limits of Auburn, as on the other side of Lee County. So I can go ahead and tell you, in an honest opinion, I feel like everyone is a little bit more positive in the city limits of Auburn. Now, my last video that I did, I talked about the cost of housing. And if you look at that video, the cost of housing was $260,000. That was literally a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit more, but no more than a year and really 6 months ago. So you're going to be significantly higher in the average cost of housing. Now, where do we see that housing pricing going? I think it's just going to really level off. We just went through hyperinflation, and I think the Fed did a really good job of raising the rate to really taper that off. Now, will they stop a recession? I don't think so, but will they stop the hyperinflation? I think they will. And I think they're going to accomplish that as the interest rates continue to go to 6, hopefully not 7%. I hope everybody just kind of cools their jets at this point. And another thing to note about the, we talked about the average cost is $375,000 in the city limits of Auburn, and then you've got $300 for the state of Alabama. Now, the national average, according to Zillow, the average home sale is actually $355,000. So as far as residential, that includes all residential. So something to be aware of is that actually we're just a little bit more expensive than the national average, which is kind of interesting to look at. But if you look on a map, if you go to best places, which I'm going to pull up that map right now, and we'll just pop that up on the screen. Here we go. So you've got this cost of living map, and you can see that Auburn Opelika is really on its own island. You've got some outlier cities like Waverly, Notasulga, Tuskegee, Dadeville, Camp Hill. And when you click on Auburn, it says overall cost of living on this index is 104.2, which means it's 4.2 over 4.2% higher than the national average for the cost of living, okay? If you click on Opelika, it's going to be 92.9. So they're roughly, 7.1% less on this index than the national average for the cost of living. Now, if you look up towards Dadeville and Alexander City, you can click on those and see that they're up there too. And the reason why is because that's a second home vacation market. So there's a lot more expensive homes. There's a big lake up there called Lake Martin. So it's a very desirable area. But Auburn Opelika very much is on its own little island, and just something to be aware of, kind of looking at the overall cost of living index. Now, thank you for joining me so long on this video. I hope you guys have learned something and got a little bit more information about the cost of living in the Auburn area. Like I said earlier in this video, if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. That really means a whole lot to us and our channel, as well as leave us a comment and let us know what you think of the video. If you have any questions or if there's any other costs that I left out that you'd like to chat more about, I'd love to reach out to you. And also, if you're looking to make a move to the area, I want you to go ahead and reach out to me and my team so we can go ahead and set up that phone call consultation or a Zoom call consultation and get the ball rolling so we can be the boots on the ground and help you successfully make that transition to the Auburn Opelika area. So we will see you guys on the next video.